Hi guys, JT here. Today I'm bringing you some information on the Humble Bundle Frictional Games Amnesia SOMA Penumbra Bundle of March 2026. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? By using links in the description below, you'll gain access to this bundle and support the channel in the process. Before I begin, I'd like to thank you the viewers for watching my silly videos. I hope they're helpful. Most importantly, knowing that you're watching it means the world. But first, a word from our sponsor, JT After Dark. You've read the threads, you've seen the warnings, but you haven't heard them like this. I'm JT. I take the internet's most terrifying stories and give them a voice. From Reddit's deepest archives to the legends that haunt the web, I bring the horror to life. Join me on JT After Dark. Subscribe now and let's see what's hiding in the shadows. Anyway, let's get into this. At number 1 we have Amnesia, The Bunker, a first-person horror game that thrusts you into a claustrophobic World War I bunker, forcing you to outwit a terrifying beast while managing scarce resources. The game places you in the boots of Henry Clement, a French soldier who must navigate through dark, labyrinthine corridors to survive. The bunker transforms Amnesia's familiar sense of dread into an immersive sim experience, reminiscent of Alien Isolation. Instead of merely running and hiding, you're now planning your every move, rationing fuel for the generator, and scrounging for supplies to keep the lights on and the creature at bay. Every sound you make, whether cranking a flashlight or smashing a door, heightens the risk of the monster's imminent arrival. Yet, stealthy alternatives, like finding hidden vents or using cinder blocks to quietly break locks, add a strategic layer that keeps you on edge. The game excels in sound design, with every distant artillery boom, scurrying rat, or guttural growl sending chills down your spine. You'll often find yourself debating whether to use your last bullet to defend yourself, or save it for a locked door later on. Though its story is more straightforward than previous entries, piecing together Henry's role through scattered notes adds depth and emotional impact. The unpredictable randomized item placement and the ever-present threat ensure that no two playthroughs are the same, making Amnesia the Bunker an intense, nerve-wracking experience you will not soon forget. At number 2 we have SOMA, a science fiction survival horror game that swaps the gothic castles of Frictional Games' previous hits for the crushing depths of the Atlantic Ocean. You play as Simon Jarrett, a man who undergoes an experimental brain scan only to wake up a century later in Pathos 2, a decaying underwater research facility. The game shifts focus from traditional jump scares to what can best be described as philosophical horror. While you spend your time fixing machinery and finding alternative routes through ruined laboratories, the real tension comes from the existential questions you encounter. You're forced to grapple with Cartesian duality and the nature of consciousness as you meet malfunctioning robots that believe they are human. These interactions create profound moral dilemmas, especially when you're given the option to unplug these sentient machines. Visually and audibly, the experience is superb. The creatures you encounter are vague, glitchy horrors that sound like distorted screams of dying humanity. However, the game's greatest strength is its narrative depth rather than its stealth mechanics. At times, the story is delivered through repetitive audio logs, and you may find the philosophical themes a bit tell rather than show. Despite its age, SOMA remains a landmark entry in the genre. It creates a world you feel truly part of, leaving you with a sense of dread that lingers in your mind long after you have escaped the dark, watery corridors of the abyss, proving that its haunting questions about identity are timeless. At number 3 we have Amnesia, Rebirth, a direct follow-up to the seminal horror title The Dark Descent, and it successfully evolves the series by grounding its supernatural terror in a deeply personal story. You take on the role of Tassi Trinan, an engineering drafter who awakens in the Algerian desert following a plane crash. With her memories fractured and her husband missing, you must guide her through a harrowing journey across sweltering dunes, forgotten forts, and otherworldly dimensions. The gameplay remains faithful to the Frictional Games formula. You spend much of your time scrounging for matches and lantern oil to keep the oppressive darkness at bay. This is not just for visibility. Spending too long in the shadows causes Tassie's fear to spike, resulting in disturbing visual distortions and frantic whispers that erode your own composure. You're fundamentally powerless against the chittering ghouls stalking the ruins, forcing you to rely on stealth and speed to survive. Rebirth's greatest strength is its narrative ambition. It explores themes of trauma and motherhood with a maturity rarely seen in the genre. However, the experience is not without friction. You may find that frequent physics-based puzzles occasionally interrupt the tension, and the reliance on flashbacks can sometimes feel clunky. Despite these minor pacing issues, the game's masterful sound design and atmospheric environments create a constant sense of dread. If you seek a horror experience that prioritizes emotional stakes and psychological tension over simple jump scares, this journey into the dark is well worth the ordeal. At number 4 we have Amnesia, a machine for pigs. A psychological horror journey that traced the mechanical complexity of its predecessor for a deeply unsettling narrative focus. Set in the final hours of the 19th century, you step into the shoes of Oswald Mandus, a wealthy industrialist waking from a fever into a dark Victorian hellscape. You're tasked with exploring a massive subterranean slaughterhouse to find your missing children, all while unraveling a story that explores the intersection of human cruelty and the rise of industrial technology. The experience is significantly streamlined compared to The Dark Descent. You no longer have to manage an inventory or hunt for oil and tinder boxes to keep your lantern lit. Most notably, the sanity meter is gone. Looking at the grotesque bipedal pig creatures that stalk the halls will not cause you to lose your mind or distort your vision. While these changes may disappoint fans of the original survival mechanics, they allow you to remain immersed in the atmospheric dread without the frustration of resource management. The core of the game lies in its environmental storytelling and macabre audio logs. You'll trudge through uninspired puzzles involving valves and fuses, but these serve as brief interludes between moments of genuine terror. The game focuses on a breed of dread that is personal and intangible, questioning the character's own morality. You are presented with a tighter, more haunting experience that prioritizes a powerful story over traditional gameplay obstacles, delivering a satisfying, lingering chill. At number 5 we have Amnesia, The Dark Descent, a first-person survival horror game that proves far scarier than initially appears. Set in 1839, within the crumbling walls of Brennenburg Castle, the narrative follows Daniel, an Englishman who has intentionally induced amnesia. Starting with what it is, a narrative-driven experience, you soon find that its brilliance lies in how it handles psychological horror and moral revulsion. You learn Daniel's past through scattered notes and eerie flashbacks, discovering that his descent is as much a moral corruption as it is a physical journey into a nightmare. As you explore the atmospheric gothic environments, you must manage your sanity and light sources. Looking at monsters or lingering in the darkness causes your vision to warp and distort, eventually manifesting as flies crawling over the screen or auditory hallucinations. While the monsters can be outrun, the game's true power comes from what you don't see. Much of the cruelty is described in text or implied by haunting sound effects, forcing your imagination to fill in the gruesome blanks. The gameplay leans towards exploration and puzzle solving, often feeling like a modern point-and-click adventure. Although the game is generous with resources like tinderboxes and oil, the constant threat and tenebrous lighting keep you in a state of perpetual dread. By the time you reach the disturbing conclusion, you're left with a profound sense of unease. It is a masterful example of storytelling where you play as a deeply flawed protagonist, leaving you feeling unsettled for hours. At number 6 we have Penumbra Collector's Pack, a first-person horror adventure that bundles 3 distinct chapters: Overture, Black Plague, and Requiem. You begin as Philip, a physicist drawn to a desolated Greenland mine after receiving a letter from his deceased father. What starts as a search for answers quickly descends into a psychological nightmare within a subterranean facility. The core of your experience is the HPL engine, which introduces a novel physics-based interaction system. To open a drawer or turn a valve, you don't just press a button, you must click and physically drag your mouse in the desired direction. This creates a tactile sense of immersion that grounds you in the environment. However, you'll find this mechanic frustrating in Overture, where clunky combat with rabid dogs feels imprecise and wary. Fortunately, Black Plague abandons combat, focusing on a hide-or-die philosophy that heightens the tension. The level design here is masterfully distorted, reflecting Philip's crumbling sanity through shifting layouts and terrifying audio cues. The atmosphere remains relentlessly oppressive, punctuated by high-quality writing found in scattered notes and deranged radio messages. The collection falters with Requiem, a hasty addition that strips away the enemies and the narrative stakes in favor of environmental puzzles. It feels like a series of Half-Life outtakes, hastily assembled and lacking the sinister soul of its predecessors. Despite this uneven finale, the collection is a captivating journey for any horror fan. You'll find it to be an intelligent, if occasionally clunky example of how atmosphere can truly toy with your psyche. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is a total win for horror fans. For just $15, you're snagging a god-tier collection including SOMA, Amnesia the Bunker, and the classic Dark Descent. Whether you're diving into the philosophical mindfuck of Pathos 2, or playing hide-and-seek with the beast in a World War I trench, the value here is insane. Most titles are Steam Deck verified, so you can quest through these nightmares anywhere. Don't sleep on this loot. Grab it before it's game over. In any case, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if this video was helpful, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and maybe consider buying the channel a coffee. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.